Hare Krishna, dear devotees, welcome back once again to our ever ongoing series on the glories of our most beloved Sri Vrindavan Dham. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I'm addressing you again in Rishikesh on the banks of the sacred Mother Ganges. We've got a couple more weeks of our festival program going, and it's going very nicely by Srila Prabhupada's grace. So, we are continuing with our mini-series on Stimulation for Ecstatic Love, and this will be part 16, and we'll be continuing with the theme of birds in the loving pastimes of Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. In fact, we'll discuss two kinds of Vrindavan birds this time, the famous Chataka bird and equally famous Chakori bird. And they can be a great stimulus for awakening our love for Krishna, so we should listen very attentively. Shastra identifies two kinds of hearers of Krishna Katha, superior and inferior. In other words, those who hear for the purpose of awakening their love for the divine couple, Radha and Krishna, and those who hear simply for entertainment. The superior hearers are called pravara, and they're likened to Chataka birds, swans, parrots, and fish. Whereas the inferior hearers are called avara, and they're likened to wolves, crows, bulls, and camels, who get no real tangible benefit from hearing Krishna Katha, the glories of Krishna. Now, regarding the superior hearers, likened to, again, Chataka birds, swans, parrots, and fish, it's said that a devotee who takes a vow to hear only Srimad Bhagavatam is like the thirsty Chataka bird, who drinks only pure rainwater, as it falls directly from a cloud. One who listens to a variety of scriptures, but selects the essence of what he's heard, Krishna Katha, is like a swan that extracts milk when mixed with water. One who hears nicely and then repeats that knowledge well, delights his guru as well as other listeners, and is likened to a well-trained parrot, which pleases both its trainer and bystanders. And then finally there's the silent listener, who neither blinks nor speaks, but admires with affection the excellence of what he hears. He is compared to a glossy fish swimming in the ocean of milk. I like that one. He's compared to a glossy fish swimming in the ocean of milk. So, as we can imagine, there's many different kinds of birds in Vrindavan. Therefore, I was reading that Vrindavan is sometimes referred to as Bahurangivan. Bahurangivan. It means literally the forest of colors where various types of colorful birds reside. We mentioned in a recent class that the birds of Vrindavan are not ordinary birds, but rather divine personalities who live in Braj and sing about the pastimes of the Lord, for the pleasure of the Lord and all his devotees. Krishna is known as Bhashavit. Bhashavit means the knower of all languages. The language of humans, demigods, aquatic creatures, and even birds are all known by Krishna. Therefore, it's said that when Krishna plays his flute to call all the residents of Vrindavan, the language of his flute is understood differently by the various creatures of Braj. In other words, they understand Krishna's flute playing in their own languages. Shastra says that the result of that, because of that, cows think Krishna's calling them when he plays his flute. Gopis think that Krishna's calling their names, And deer, for example, they think Krishna is calling them only. But, and this is really interesting, when the birds of Vrindavan hear Krishna's flute song, the acharyas say they think that Krishna is competing with them in their ability to sing in higher notes. The poet Govindadas refers to this competition in one of his poems. He writes, "Oh friend, just look, all the birds in Braj are singing, a concert of competition of higher notes." It's very poetic. A concert of competition of higher notes. Thus the whole of Braj has become filled with intoxicating and pleasing musical sounds, which reverberate thousands of times throughout the beautiful forest of Braj and fill the hearts of everyone with ecstasy. Countless birds on one side and Krishna's flute on the other side fill the hearts of the Brajabasis with love. Govindadas says, "I see the Gandharvas, Apsaras, and the goddess of music bowing down to the lotus feet of those divine birds and the dear flute of Krishna." Thank you, Govindadas. So this is essentially how one can meditate on Krishna's pastimes, where everything is meant to stimulate love for the Lord and his eternal consort, Srimati Radharani. Now we mentioned the Chataka bird, who is famous for only drinking pure water that falls from rain clouds. Specifically, this Chataka bird drinks water only when it rains during the moon's transit in Swati Nakshatra. On a morning walk on June 10th, 1975 in Honolulu, Hawaii, Prabhupada said, quote, "There is a bird called Chataka that drinks only rainwater. Similarly, devotees simply depend on Krishna. They don't accept anything from this material world." Similarly, devotees simply depend on Krishna. They don't accept anything from this material world. Nice comparison. Now, there's a very beautiful pastime which is described by one of my favorite poets, Lalit Kishore, who was a famous Vaishnava poet. It's known as Manini Ko Mana, which translates as the pride of the proud. The pride of the proud. And it concerns such a Chataka bird. So, once Krishna was sitting in a kunja with Sri Radha in the evening, and Sri Radha said, "O Krishna, please play your magical flute, which fills my ears with your beautiful words and music." So Krishna smiled at Sri Radhika, and he started playing a very beautiful raga. A raga means like a certain special melody according to that particular time of the day, which brings out the mood of that particular time of the day, for loving pastimes. But when Sri Radha heard the fifth note of that raga, she suddenly became very upset and angry, and she got up from her seat. So Krishna immediately, he stopped playing the raga, and taking Sri Radha's hand, he asked, "Dearest Radhe, what happened? Why are you upset?" So Sri Radha said, "Krishna, my gopis are correct. They always tell me I should not trust you, but I'm very naive because I don't understand your tricks." And then Krishna looked confused. So Radha continued. She said, "Krishna, you're a very clever boy, for you are playing your flute to please two gopis, me and my competitor Chandravali. For the raga you are playing is called Chanda Konj. Chanda Konj. It means literally the raga of Chandra the moon or Chandravali, according to Sri Radha. So she said, "I'm going home to my palace. I'll leave you with your raga and your dearest Chandravali." And with that, Sri Radha walked out of the kunj. Now Krishna, whose heart, it's described, had reached the peak of love for Sri Radha, by playing his flute in her service, had his heart broken. So he broke down sobbing. And at that moment, Purnamarsi arranges all these pastimes. At that moment, Vrindadevi, her assistant, came by and saw Krishna crying. So concerned, she asked Krishna, "My dear Krishna, my heart is breaking into pieces seeing you shed such precious tears." She described them like that, precious tears. These tears cause distress in the heart of Brahma, Vishnu, and Lord Shiva. Please calm down for a moment and tell me the reason for your crying. So Krishna, it's described with his eyebrows bent in pain. Imagine that. His eyebrows bent in pain, and with red eyes filled with tears, he said in a sobbing voice, "Oh, my dear Vrindadevi, please save me from a black serpent that came and bit me with his poisonous tongue. Soon I may not be able to meet Sri Radha, the life heir of my existence." So Srimati Vrindadevi, our heroine, she said, "But Krishna, I don't see a black serpent here." Krishna said, "Yes, it is here, but it is not an ordinary serpent. He is not visible to the naked eye, but the symptom of its poisonous bites are visible. This serpent of separation," there's the clue, "this serpent of separation comes without any physical form, but causes symptoms such as crying, shivering, distress, which are proof of its poisonous bite of separation from one's beloved. Oh Vrindadevi, please save me, please save me." So Vrindadevi understood the whole scenario and said, "Oh Krishna, do not worry. Please be peaceful. I will now give you medicinal herbs by which this poison of separation in your body will go away and never come back again." So Vrindadevi called one of her Chataka birds, by, it's described, clapping her hands 5 times. So suddenly a beautiful Chataka bird appeared in front of Vrindadevi. So Vrindadevi, she quickly wrote a letter, which she then placed in a golden kavacha on a golden chain and tied the chain around the neck of her Chataka bird. And then the Chataka messenger flew to the palace of Sri Radha and sat on the throne of Sri Radha. And when Sri Radha saw the bird, she opened up the kavacha and started reading the letter. Again, messages. Started reading the letter. The letter read as follows. It's so nice. "O goddess of all goddesses in the universe, please accept my respects." This is, of course, Vrindadevi writing. "You are the queen of Braja and our only shelter. Here is one soul who is surviving on his life air, and you are his life air. His love for you is like the love of this Chataka bird in front of you, who always lives near ponds and lakes, but never drinks water from them, always dances in the rain, but never ever drinks a single drop of rainwater until the first drop falls to the earth during the Swati Nakshatra. It chooses to die from thirst, but never drinks any water from other sources. Similarly, your Krishna lives in the company of gopis, dances in the rasa dance with different gopis, but never feels the same pleasure with other gopis as he feels with you. Oh my dear queen, now he is dying of thirst from your separation. Please come back with this Chataka bird and quench his thirst with your mercy, which is like the first drop of water during the Swati Nakshatra, falling to the mouth of a Chataka bird." The poet Lalit Kishore says, "Oh my dear Thakurani, I beg you to help me meet your life and soul Krishna, who loves you more than he loves any other gopi." Thank you, Lalit Kishore. Again, we use many of your poems in our lectures. One day we hope to meet you. So in Prem Bhakti Chandrika, we hear, just as a fish out of water feels great distress and dies, similarly, the devotee feels distress without love of God. As a Chataka bird drinks only rainwater, similarly, unalloyed devotees relish only love of God. Narottam Das Thakur. In Brihad Bhagavatamritam 2.3.167, we hear, like the distressed crying of the Chataka birds on a cloudless day of the rainy season, or the lamenting of a flock of Chakravakti birds, when parted from their husbands at night, the Sankirtan of the Lord's names arises when one is burdened by too much pain. Wow. And Rupa Goswami's Pajavali, with a drop of nectar, O Chataka, seeing the dark body of Krishna, don't run towards him by falsely thinking him to be a rain cloud. You will not find any water there, and instead he will make you cry tears of separation from your eyes. And finally, today, because I have a lot of service to do here at the Rishikesh Kirtan Fest again, we're getting like 400 or 500 people a night. Finally, there is the Chakori bird. I've heard this word often because many times parents, they name their daughters Chakori. So we have the Chakori bird. Now, the characteristic of the Chakori bird is that they love moonlight. The closer the Chakori bird can fly to the full moon, the more it relishes the night. And as soon as the moon is visible in the dark sky, the Chakori bird dances in happiness. Therefore, this bird is often used when describing the nature of the gopis. He likes to fly in the moonlight. Because as soon as the moon rises in the dark sky, all the Braja gopis dance in happiness, because soon they know they will meet Krishna for a rasa dance. Such a wonderful comparison. So poetic. So we'll finish today with some verses about the Chakori bird. We heard some verses about the Chataka bird, and now we'll hear finally this beautiful Chakori bird. First from Gopal Champu. Separated from Krishna, Radha and her gopi friends looked like does terrified of a forest fire. Chakori birds, unable to gaze at the moon, new vines ripped from their trees, safari fish out of water, or new lotus flowers uprooted from a lake. Next, Prem Bhakti Chandrika, Song 7, stanza 3. It's really nice. As a bumblebee yearns for lotus flowers, as a Chakori bird yearns for moonlight, as a chaste wife yearns for her husband, and a pauper yearns for money, a devotee yearns to attain love for the divine couple. This is the way of love. This is the way of love. And finally, a verse connected to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, our Yuga avatar. Chaitanya Chandamritam, verse 107, by Prabodhananda Saraswati. Gracefully dancing, spotless, free from all impurities and crookedness, showering the nectar of pure love of Krishna, which extinguishes the threefold sufferings of all living entities, his splendid effulgence, tasted by the Chakori birds of the devotees' hearts, and now risen from the milk ocean of Sachi's womb, the moon of Lord Gauranga Chandra splendidly shines in this world. Hare Krishna. So that's all for today. We'll get one more class out of these amazing birds of Vrindavan next Friday. I was studying late into the night and came across a lot of information, so I figured we'll get 2 classes here. But You must excuse me, back to the nectar of Sri Krishna Sankirtan here on the banks of the Ganges in Rishikesh. We've rented an ashram, as I mentioned, and hundreds of people are coming every night. We're the most popular thing happening in Rishikesh right now, and people love it. I just love when people come for the first time, and I see them chanting Hare Krishna for the first time. Their eyes light up, they sit up, they smile, and within a very short time, we have some of the best kirtaniers in ISKCON here. They're dancing in ecstasy. So satisfying to the heart, Sri Krishna Sankirtan. The mission of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So, back to my duties here. I'll be back in a week with all of you. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki, Shri Shri Radha Shama Sundar ki, all the wonderful birds of Vrindavan ki, Vrindavan Ishwari Shrimati Radharani ki, Mayapur Dham ki, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Krishna Sankirtan Yagya ki, share the mercy ki, back home, back to Godhead ki, Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Srila Prabhupada ki, Jai Jai Sisi Radhe, Sham Sham Sham, Hare Krishna.